Every runner has gotten an injury at one point or another in their running career. It's just sort of what happens to us when we're pushing the envelope, when we're trying to train hard, when we're trying to run higher mileage and do hard workouts. These are hard things and they're stressful things. And that's why the annual injury rate among runners is somewhere around 60 to 70%. That means every year, 6 or 7 out of 10 runners is gonna get injured. They're gonna experience a repetitive stress fracture. And one of the reasons for that is because running is an impact sport. We are definitely impacting our body with every step we take as we complete our training and really make sure that we're doing everything we should be doing. Every step we take is sending 2 to 5 times of our body weight up through our legs in impact forces. So injuries are common, they're gonna happen. The key is how do we mitigate them over time? And if we do get injured, are we treating it in the best way possible? And that's what I wanna talk about today. Are we treating our niggles and small problems in the best way possible so that we can get back to training? And often what happens is if you're a runner and something starts to hurt, one of the first things that we do is we throw the kitchen sink at it. We try to do everything so that we can get healthy and get back to our normal training schedule. Now, this is often a good idea. This is often really smart because we want to do as much as we can to get healthy. I like to tell runners, let's focus on our treatment just as much as we're focusing on our training as well. So if you do get hurt, often we're gonna do as much as we can to get healthy. But sometimes throwing the kitchen sink at a niggle that you have isn't always the best idea. So for example, if you have some plantar fasciitis pain and your foot just doesn't feel right, it might not be a great idea to do E-stim and ice and do a bunch of mobility work and start strength training and start doing all these things to your foot because it might overload the tissue. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid a situation where we have a cranky muscle, whether it's your plantar fascia, maybe you're dealing with a calf injury. If you are dealing with a cranky muscle, throwing the kitchen sink and doing as much as you can to treat this may not be your best long-term decision because it may prolong your recovery from this issue. So let's talk a little bit more about what this means and how you can get back to running healthy, faster. I'm often working with a runner who will say something funny, kind of like, oh, it only hurts my foot if I stand on one leg, look behind me, and cross my arms and hop on the other leg. And you're like, well, maybe you should just not do that and then your foot won't hurt. And it's sort of this funny example that just goes to show sometimes as runners, we're always testing our injury to see if it hurts. And the constant poking and prodding and testing can, not always, but it can prolong our recovery. And so if we want to treat our niggle really well, if we want to get back to running as quickly as we can, tip number 1 here is determine whether or not you need to throw the kitchen sink at your injury right away. Sometimes all you need is 1 or 2 days of reduced activity. A lot of the times we think of recovery as this active process, but recovery is really what your body does by itself on its own when you're not exercising. It's by sleeping, by eating enough calories, by eating good, high quality, nutrient dense calories, and making sure that you're not overloaded with stress. These are all really effective ways to recover from workout to workout, and also to help your body more fully recover from a particular injury that you might be experiencing. So we don't always have to do as much as possible to get healthy from an injury, and if it's minor, you probably don't.
You know, I'm not that big into supplements, but I do love AG1 by Athletic Greens. I consider it my nutrition insurance, helping me cover all my bases so I know I'm not missing out on anything my body needs, especially when I'm training really hard. I try to eat really well, but of course, AG1 is that extra security that gives me peace of mind over my diet. 1 scoop per day, and I'm getting 75 vitamins and minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, antioxidants, and adaptogens. You can try it out too at athleticgreens.com/Jason, and they're going to throw in a free year's worth supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. Check it out at athleticgreens.com/Jason.
Our next tip is to simply leave it alone. Let's not put ourselves into these situations where we're constantly testing to see how whatever our injury is, how it feels. We don't need to always be testing our injury, because then we're always causing a little bit of extra pain. And one of the really effective ways at reducing your recovery time from an injury is just to avoid pain as much as possible. If you're avoiding pain, then you're avoiding activities or situations where you're doing additional damage to your muscle tissue. So if you're poking something, or if you're massaging it all the time, or you're trying to stand on one leg, or you're trying to do a particular exercise to see if your injury is still giving you problems and it's still giving you all this pain every time you try this strategy, you might be doing something that's prolonging your recovery. And finally, tip number 3 is, if this is something that is chronic, or you're unable to self-treat it, if this is an injury that is not responding to self-treatment and it's hurting for more than a couple days, maybe it's 7 days, 2 weeks, go see a physical therapist. And let's make sure we're seeing the right physical therapist. It is always a good idea to see a physical therapist who specializes in treating runners, or someone who's a runner themselves and really understands the sport and its demands and your drive to get back there out on the road. So despite me being very bullish on treating injuries really aggressively and doing as much as we can to get healthy, sometimes that's counterproductive. Sometimes doing nothing is the best rest and recovery that the body needs. And if you're looking for extra recovery tips, extra ideas to help you stay healthy, one of the best resources that we have is the little black book of recovery and injury prevention. It was a cool project I did where I spoke with 9 elite athletes and I got their best recovery and injury prevention advice. And it's all packaged up in a free ebook that you can download at strengthrunning.com/elites. These are road runners, trail runners, ultra runners, even a professional triathlete, and they talk about how they stay healthy even when they're putting in those mega mileage weeks, even when they're putting in all those hard workouts. So go to strengthrunning.com/elites, and I really hope you enjoy it. It's one of the more fun resources I've put together for runners, because it really pulls from so many different areas of professional running, and hopefully it'll help you avoid that next big injury.